my gosh, it's so great to be here with you today. We've been in each other's space for a long time, and how did we meet?
At this point, I have no idea. I just know that we've seen each other a lot coming up in the last few years. So
I know. So folks, if you're listening and you know how Jennifer and I met, let us know because we're trying to figure this out. So yes, great to be here.
I've been in like you. We've just had a conversation, and the thing that you're most passionate about is learning to listen because we've all kind of forgotten to listen. And this year of 2020 has been a great time to learn to listen to others and to ourselves. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've just created?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So goes all the way back to my childhood. No. I was a kid raised in a home that was really weird in a way that I didn't know it was weird. I thought it was totally normal. And in my home, my family, I had two siblings, so three of us and my parents, we listened to each other. And interrupting each other was not something you were allowed to do. And I was raised, two things happened. One, I was raised thinking that was normal, and it helped me become a great listener. But then when I went into the real world, I was completely ill equipped to deal with the rest of reality where nobody really listens to each other and everyone cuts each other off. Like I had no practice in my childhood at my home with that because we listened. So my whole adult life, I'd been frustrated at people who don't listen, and not so much because I wanted them to hear me and my story, although of course that was a piece of it. But another piece was I just kept seeing all around me when people don't listen, they miss out on life. I mean, they go to would see people go to events and parties, and there's so much happening around them that they completely miss out on because they aren't listening. They aren't asking. They aren't curious. And it's really been, I mean, I want to be super, super positive here, but Jennifer, but it's really been my number one pet peeve of my life. And then it just becomes part of my normal of life. And then at the end of 2019, before any of us had any clue that 2020 would be very special in its own unique way, I'm one of those weirdos that makes New Year's resolutions. I know some people don't like it. Some people are like, New Year's resolutions. I'm one of those weirdos that likes them. And one of my resolutions I made in 2019 for 2020 was I was going to spend a significant amount of time listening to the other. And so I have gone in, and when I'm online and if I see somebody that I look at and I think, oh my gosh, they are crazy, they're wackadoodle, like what are they thinking? I would go to their website and I would read it. If they had a podcast, I'd listen to 2 or 3 hours of it. I'd sign up for their newsletter. And let me tell you, if I get hit by a bus and somebody sees my email account, they won't know what to make of me because I got all kinds of like left wing, right wing, the fringies over here, the fringies over there. That's what I call them wingers and fringies, the people on, all over the place. And at first it really stressed me out, and I'd have to walk away from it. And then I'd go back and look for a few more days, and then I'd have to back. But then I ended up having this real sense of peace around, like, oh my gosh, yes, we have issues. Yes, we have things to work on. But no, we are not as divided in real life as we think we are. Media makes us think we're divided. Social media makes us think we're divided. Every, and so it was just a really huge, huge aha for me. Um, and so as I kept doing this, my son, who's a high schooler, he had a summer school work study project he needed to do. And I'm a podcaster and he's interested. So he's like, Mom, I want to make a podcast for school. And he wanted to do all the technical side of it, but he didn't want to be the voice because I would like to call him very smart. He's kept his digital footprint very small. And so I recorded the listening skills, and then he did all the technical. He did all the editing. He picked out the music. He picked out the colors. So I hope you like red because that's what he picked out. Um, and he got it on iTunes, or excuse me, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, like he did it all, just like Joe Rogan would. And that really birthed the Listening Skills Project. And it has just been such an awesome experience for our whole family. So that's kind of the whole shebang, Jennifer, the whole how it started. Kind of crazy.
That's awesome that it was a family thing. It wasn't just like you came up with an idea, like your family got involved, which right now I think in 2020 we've learned how important it is to at least get along with our families, if not more, because we're spending a lot of time with them. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about like how you two decided on it as the listening skills.
Uh, this is kind of I don't know if you call it funny or just real, right? Teenage boy, junior in high school, doing a summer credit that mom's making him do because he's not really paying attention. Like if I just make him do it, then he'll be done with school earlier and he'll be glad he did it all by himself. Um, but so but he wanted to do the podcast thing because he liked the technology of it. Then the original thought was he was going to do his own podcast, like maybe under a surname or maybe, and he's got this really deep voice. So he thought, oh, maybe I can do a podcast and under a fake name and people will think I'm like 40 years old. And so he started doing all the planning and all the technical pieces. And then we're like, okay, now it's time to start scripting this and recording. And he did the typical teenage thing. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to. I don't know. I don't know. This whole thing's dumb. I don't like this. Why do we even have to do this anyway? So I listened to him and wow, that's interesting. I listened to him. Yeah. And I was asking for more clarity on what's going on. What are you thinking? And after a time it came out of him saying my digital footprint's really small and I don't think I'm ready to go out there yet, even under a surname. So he's like, I don't care what topic it is, mom. I really don't care. But can you just record something and then I'll do everything else? And that's how it came about. So it really was just us working together and listening and me listening to him. I could have forced him. Well, I don't know. He's a teenager. Maybe not. Um, I could have tried to force him, but instead I listened and we ended up with something really, really great. And just the fact that like the very first lesson is get rid of distractions. Yeah. And that, as far as family dynamics and relationship dynamics, getting rid of distractions in your phone is like the holy grail of, you could say, loving someone else and giving them your attention. And so if you've got your phone and we'll just go through this lesson real quick for kicks and grins. So if I have my phone in front of me here and you and I are having a conversation and you see me looking up and down from the phone to you, trying to talk to me, you, the speaker, me, the listener, it's really rude. And I'm assuming you think I'm not really listening. Not really, right? Yeah. So if I take that phone and set it down on the table, face up between us, now I might be listening to you better, but subconsciously I'm telling you that you're only as important as the next ding on my phone or the next time my phone screen turns on when it's on silent, right? So that's still not a loving conversation. So if I take that phone, turn the ringer off, put it somewhere where it's out of reach and out of sight, now you as the listener feel like maybe you have a shot of me actually listening to you. And just that first lesson, oh my gosh, it's seriously so hard to do. So hard to do, so easy to teach, and so impactful and empowering. I mean, that alone just like changes everything. So, yeah, so we've got another whole bunch more lessons we can go through or chat about anything you want on listening because I've done too much. I'm talking about listening right now.
That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Is talking about listening. Um, with that first lesson, I think that there's so much to unpack in just that one, and that's
Yeah.
part of what I am personally passionate really about is like that disconnection, the disconnection from the ding. I hate the ding. I honestly it drives me crazy because then you don't feel like you're worthy of being in front of that person. And I think that
Exactly.
ties into so many different things, you know, like you said, in family, in your relationships, and even your relationship with yourself. If you're
Yeah.
constantly on high alert for that stupid ding,
Yep.
it
Yep.
it just there's so much, and yeah, there's so many questions I have on top of that. Like, where would you start if somebody is having some severe separation anxiety from their phone? Let's be real. A couple months ago, that's where I was. I
Uh-huh.
the phone be in the other room, and it caused so much anxiety I couldn't leave it in the other room. Where
Yep.
would someone start with that so that they can start that listening thing?
Ooh. Okay. Okay. So so Jennifer, can I flip it back to you since that was a very very real thing to you? It sounds like if I had just not listened and said to you, Jennifer, take your phone, put it in the other room for an hour, like anxiety, right? And then too much anxiety, you grow a tumor, and then that's expensive. And I mean, you know, so what for you? So let me listen for you. What do you think your next step would be that would be help that would actually be not anxiety producing but helpful?
Oh, for me, it was I ended up doing it for short. Like it wasn't an hour. It was
Yeah.
5 minutes, and it was having a conversation with my husband. The same thing. He's got two phones because he's a fire chief, and he's got his home phone. He
Oh
does a lot
geez.
of outside work, and he's a firehouse. And if he's not on vacation, he has to answer the firehouse phone.
Yeah.
I had to tell him like it started in 5 minute increments. Like let's put our phones in the other room so we can have a conversation for 5 minutes without a ding. Which is
Yeah.
why when you said the word ding, you could probably see my face cringe up. Like, oh,
I, yep.
there's a lot of the ding in that conversation piece and learning to listen to what we need.
Yeah. And how did that work for you guys then? Like the first time you did that?
Oh, it was really hard. The first time, I don't even know what the conversation was. I couldn't even tell you if we had a conversation. It was the anxiety was so high between the two of us. It was just. But now we can do it for like an hour because we know that he can get away with 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do a 2 hour block with no phones, and it's changed the game because we do listen, and now we know different things. It's changed how we're vacationing, which I mean, COVID changed how we're vacationing, but it really did. It's changed a lot because we learned to listen to each other. So now it's not like you're going on a vacation that I want, I'm going on a vacation that I want. We're going separate, or we're going together and forcing ourselves. There's just that listening piece that really opened up when you weren't getting distracted.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really, really cool. Yeah, no, that's a really great example. I know for my life, what it's helped with is, well, one, I was really fortunate that my son and I developed this together because then he listened to all of it. So I had the advantage of him having listened to the podcasts. And they're short. They're like 12 lessons, 3 minutes each. Just like here it is, boom, here's how to put it in your life, boom, next one, you know. Um, so I could joke. We joke a lot. It's just kind of how I roll. And so I could joke like if he was distracted on his phone, I could be like, "Oh, honey, that's lesson 102 of listening skills." And he's like, "Oh, mom, okay," you know. Um, and and then my husband saw that we were doing this too and talking about it. And I was really surprised at how much people actually want to get rid of distractions. They really want to be heard, and they know. I mean, we know. We just have to be reminded 10,000 times, that this is what we got to do to be heard. So yeah, yeah. So that's the first one. Should we keep unpacking it or?
Unpacking. And then what is your podcast called? So, and I'll put it in the show notes, but just so people can find it.
Yeah, it's called Listening Skills. Can you believe of the 1 million podcasts out there, there was no podcast titled, there's only like 3 titled Listening Skills, but one is I think in Mandarin, another one is about like some FBI something. It has nothing to do. Yeah, there is no podcast out there that just teaches the basic listening skills. I was floored. Yeah, so it's listening skills, and the website is ListeningSkills.shop, not ListeningSkills.com, ListeningSkills.shop, and the podcast is there too for anybody to listen to. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's the second skill?
Okay, so we get rid of distractions, then we go on to eye contact. And this one is one to be aware of and to know that eye contact really depends on the situation, the culture, and the relationship, right? Because I can look at my husband 6 inches away from him, right into his eyes for a long time. Totally, totally cool. If my dog's vet did that to me, like that would be really creepy. Um, or if the clerk at the grocery store, got right in my face like that like no. In different cultures, are stay closer or further away. So really, it's just mostly to be aware of where your eyes are and what they're saying. And then we go on to posture, which is essentially, I mean, this is the basics of making sure your shoulders are facing, yeah, arms crossed, looking down. Yeah, looking away, body turned away. Yeah, basically making sure your body is facing the person and open. So if possible, legs aren't crossed, shoulders are facing. And then another pro tip I teach, even though this is very basic, but it's surprisingly powerful, is if you have a glass of something, say you're meeting for coffee or wine, and you have a coffee mug or a glass of wine, we tend to hold it with both hands in front of us or with one hand in front of us. But if you take that coffee mug or that glass and just move it to the side, or if it's on a table, move it on to the side so there's nothing physical between you and the person you're listening to, subconsciously it again says you're more important than this glass of wine, which is crazy. Yeah. So there's two more. Should we keep going?
You want to keep going? If not, I have all sorts of questions
Go
too.
for it. No, I want to hear your questions because we can always
I'm
listen
like,
to the.
oh, like
Yeah.
my brain is a little like, oh, even things get in the way, like my coffee mug, because I am a big. Here's how I cough. Let me put both of them in front of
Me too.
my face. So
Yeah.
I'm just, how is this like as you're unpacking all of these things and stating them and putting them out into the world? How has that impacted your listening skills and your life, like internally as a family unit?
It's been huge. It's been really huge actually because I thought I was always a good listener, and I think when you put me on the spectrum of people and how well they listen or don't, I really am a good listener. But when my husband and I started a podcast together called The Lindberghs, and when we do that one, it's like highly curated. We, interview the person before the interview, then we prep, and then we do the interview, and then I edit it and I publish it. And then 2 weeks later, I listen to it again. And so I've really curated, edited, published everything, this one conversation like 6 times. And then when I listen to it again, I still hear things I never heard. Like, oh my gosh, like my husband tells jokes that I don't even hear. They literally go in it. I was like, that was a joke. And I totally missed it the first 4 times. I'm like, he's a lot funnier than I realize, you know? So I was like, and then, oh, we would do copious show notes and I would type quotes and I would listen carefully for the purpose of getting them word per word. And then I'd be like, okay, got the quote. And then I'd re listen, totally wrong. Like, how in the world is this? So, yeah, it's been awesome. And I got to tell you, just the basic listening skills, everyone around me, they're high. The second I say I made a podcast about listening skills and I say the first one is get rid of distractions, like whoop, immediately people are listening better. It's that simple, which is just awesome. But it's not perfect, but it's awesome.
You really want it to be perfect. Perfect is kind of boring, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's more empowered in your own unique way. You know, if it's
Hmm.
too curated, then it's not real.
Yeah. Totally. 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 Yeah. So it's been awesome. It's been a really great gift that I would never have done without my son, and he would never have done without me. That just that kind of, especially when you have a teenager and you can do something fun together like that. It's that impacts other people's lives is pretty cool. Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
other fun and exciting things have you done with this crazy year of 2020? Although it's been amazing. I'm gonna preface it. It's been a little crazy, but
Amazing. Depends on how I define amazing. uh, so 2020, I would say I fall into that kind of pretty typical roller coaster of emotions this year. And what I call working really hard not to get sucked into the anxiety, which is really code for having troubles with anxiety. Um, and um, I'm a huge, huge extrovert. So this whole quarantine uh, has been tough. And when our last couple weeks ago, when our governor Jay Inslee announced that we were rolling back, it sounds like not as much as California, but pretty similar. I was like, oh my gosh, I just this is going to go on forever, and our weather's cold and yada yada all that. And so I got into this like, what can I do to fix this? I must make it better, you know. And I actually bought myself four big heating pads and two huge electric blankets, and they are now on my four chairs on my front patio. And yeah, and so I can have a friend or two over and we won't freeze to death because we're like on our heating pads and warm blankets and we can hang out and be outside. So that's been huge. So, but yeah, a lot of walking. I didn't do the sourdough bread phase. My brother-in-law bailed us out with toilet paper when we were down to our last two rolls. You know, kind of pretty typical stuff. Yeah.
I love that you modified your front porch so that it can be, yes, I don't want to say like within the rules of what we're allowed to do, but it kind of, I'm not a person who likes rules. I'm an introvert, so this wasn't the hardest year for me, although my goal for 2020 was to make friends and get out in real life with people. That was the only goal, New Year's resolution I made was to get out and be with people.
Oh my gosh.
So, I had 2 months of that. I love that idea of like bringing that joy to your front porch. And there's nothing better than like a cold day or evening with that warm blanket and, maybe a cup of something warm in your hand or a nice,
Yeah.
if you're a wine drinker, a nice big bodied wine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and really it was just born out of desperation because I was like I knew I just had to, I kind of had to force myself because I just honestly struggled some with depression with this whole thing, especially as this big extrovert, and I knew one of the skills I have is that I use to get out of that is to force myself to do something positive, even when I don't feel like it. And so I was like, well, I can shop. So so I did that, and now it's just exciting. And part of it too is I know a lot of people have different opinions on how closely they follow the rules or not. I have a unique situation in that I've got some health issues myself, that, and so does my husband. He's got rheumatoid arthritis, and then his mother we're caretaking for. She lives a couple miles down from us, and we have a care team that helps her, and that care team helps other very, very vulnerable people. So we're essentially part of a loose care, you could say, care group for our most vulnerable people in the neighborhood. And so we're super careful because we just have that. real vulnerable people just right in our lives right now. And so it's totally the right thing for us to do. Yeah. Ah. How
So,
about you? You hanging in there?
oh yeah, we're hanging in. I mean, my husband's in the fire service, and that's been interesting. I personally struggle with a bunch of chronic illnesses, so he's being as careful as he can be in his field, but it is what it is. And I still get to get out and see my horse and things like that I lease. So that was hard. That was a hard 2 months without her when they shut the barn down. So
Oh, wow. What happened with, so they shut the barn down and then you had to take your horse home or?
no, I'm leasing the horse, so the horse stayed there.
Oh,
It's a very unique situation that works out really well for me most of the time. Uh,
yeah.
so I didn't have that horse therapy for a while, which was hard,
Oh,
but I got through. So we're just keeping to our own. We have our little bubble too that we stay in, and those people stay within the little bubble too. So
mm-hmm.
we're doing the best we can without losing our minds, because there's that, like you said, the mental health aspect of this whole. We're meant to be. We're meant to have connection. We're not meant to be isolated as humans. Like no
Yep.
human is meant to be isolated.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
very interesting to
It
hear.
is. And how's it your husband's uh work changed with COVID? Oh, so is that
Uh, he works a lot, which isn't not it's normal because he's with the state fire department, and so they don't really have like time limits on how long they're allowed to be at the station. The big
Oh,
change I would say is that right now they all have, well, at least in his unit, I don't know if it's the pool fire department, have Kevlar now. They wear bulletproof vests to some of their calls now. So that's been a big change for 2020. That's something new that came along with all the stuff that unpacked this year. So there's a whole new level of fear as a spouse.
yeah.
Like I got used to the worrying about the fire stuff because they're so well trained, but now there's this whole new level with public safety that's a
Oh my
whole
gosh.
a whole new ball game out there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But we're
Wow.
doing what we're doing, and everybody's good, and just plug it along, see what's around the next corner.
Yeah, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Yeah, yeah.
Getting out of the house whenever we have a ranch that we belong to, so
Mm-hmm.
15,000 acres. So we get out and try to use our ATVs and stuff as much as possible because cells don't work up there. It's like almost cut off. There's like one little place for Wi-Fi. It's like a little slice of away from reality where we can be in our own little bubble and not plug in if we don't want to.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
So
I'm a little jealous, but that's okay.
yeah.
Yay! I'm packing my tent.
Oh, there's cabins. You don't need a tent. It's cold. It's in the snow.
Woo! High class. Woohoo!
A little rough right now.
It's all good. All good.
So,
Great.
so where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so the ListeningSkills.shop. That's just ListeningSkills.shop, not ListeningSkills.com. And or you could just Google me, Lyn Lindbergh with one N, and I come up all over the place. And I'm still small enough that if folks have any questions or want to meet or chat, I can actually. And I'm actually in a unique. I did something, Jennifer, for the first time in my life. I'm 47 or 48. I need to do the math. Um, and for the first time in my life, I took a real sabbatical. So I am doing no work. Well, I'm doing my podcast, but that's fun. But besides that, I'm not doing any quote unquote real work, and I'm just taking care of me, and it's been awesome. And so, for the next couple months, I've got some bandwidth if folks want to reach out.
I love that. Oh, so what
Yeah.
are you doing during the sabbatical just for you other than your podcast? Like
So what was that?
what's lighting you up on the sabbatical outside of your podcast?
I am actually my main focus. The main, honestly, I was going crazy. I had too much going on. and something needed to drop off. And so I basically looked at my table of stuff and I just took my forearm and cleared the whole table. It was like, okay, what goes back on? And so I put my podcast on. My son, of course, he's in Running Start and doing online college for the first time at home. So that went on. My aging mother-in-law went on, and then just the home. And so it's just been so awesome to just clear everything else out, clear all the marketing, clear all the revenue generating pressure, not worry about bringing an income in for, and it's literally, I'm almost 48. It's the first time ever I've taken a few months off, and it's been really good. I slept 12 hours last night. So, yeah, yeah, and no alarm clock. So it's been, yeah, totally great. I saw your interview today and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be awake by 1, so I didn't need to set an alarm. So really just caring for myself and just really focusing on the main thing was really focusing on just healing some of my chronic illness stuff. And it's been really good. So yeah.
So that was one area that you felt was really lacking when you were overfilled.
It was really hard because when you get to a space where you're just cramming everything in, stress goes up, things start falling off the plate anyway. So I might as well slow down and decide what's important and decide for myself what's going to fall off the plate rather than staying in this perpetual place of stress and chaos where things are falling off the plate anyway. So it took me a few weeks to really think about it and think through like, do I really need to do this? Do I really, is this? And then when I made the decision, it was just like, whew, whole weight off and totally the right thing to do. So yeah, that's kind of the real dealio going on over here right now.
And did it turn off any of those screaming symptoms of chronic conditions? Because I know.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I realized that because I've been on this healing journey of a couple of years now, and I knew stress was one of my last pieces. And then I knew I also needed to figure out what was going on, like diet triggers that were causing issues in wellness and mood, and as my husband calls it, making me a snapping turtle. Um, and I knew I needed to figure that out because it wasn't the normal. It wasn't me. It wasn't who I saw myself as. And so just giving myself time to focus it. And oh my gosh, this surprised me. When I decided I was going to do this sabbatical thing, I call it, the first thought when I actually made the decision, the first thought that went through my mind was, oh my gosh, now I'm going to actually have to take care of myself. No more excuses. I know, isn't that crazy? I was like, oh, now I'm going to actually have to do this. Then I guess I just didn't realize how much I was relying on the excuses of oh, I'm busy, or oh, today was crazy, or oh, it's Thanksgiving, or oh, um, so it's been good. I'm about, was it November 1st? So I'm what, 7 weeks in and already seeing a lot of good changes. So it's been really good.
I'm so excited to keep in your space and see what comes of all of this.
Yeah.
Your podcast, because I definitely can improve my listening skills.
We all can, even me. And I wrote the thing. Yay.
So if someone was only to take one little nugget away from this interview, what would that nugget be?
Jennifer's right. Love yourself and listen to others because that'll help you love them more.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to share your story. And I'm really excited to share your podcast and everything that you have out right now with the community.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad we got to meet and chit chat. This is great.
Now at least we can say, hey, we've met him on Zoom.
Exactly. We're like official Zoom friends now, but we still don't know where we met.